Good morning, everyone. This is Omar Nazem. I'm the treasurer of the New York City Water Board. Welcome to the start of our June 6, 2022 meeting. This is the annual meeting of the Water Board. We are holding it as authorized by state law in this virtual format due to the various public health exceptions that are allowable under current state executive order. We would ask that folks please remain in not quite a state of silence, but a state of quiet with their phones on mute if possible, just to make the call listenable and available to people. As you probably heard, we are recording the call for two purposes. One, of putting an audio recording on the board's website for posterity, and then second of all, we'll be preparing a written transcript of the meeting, as we have been since we started this virtual format, and putting that up on the website for those who want to review the meeting later on, who weren't able to attend or who want to hear something again, just to make sure they knew what they heard. We had a series of public hearings 2 weeks ago that you'll hear more about those shortly. Those hearings are distinct from today's meeting. This meeting is a business meeting in the sense that it's there for the board to openly and publicly discuss and consider board business and vote on the matters on the agenda. There isn't a formal component today for public input. That's what the hearings were for. If you are a member of the public or anyone with a comment or a question, the way to submit those is not today at this meeting. It's to email us or call us at any of the contact information on the Water Board website. The Water Board website URL is nyc.gov/nycwaterboard. And if you go to that website, you can also, on the very front page, you'll see in big letters, June 6th meeting. If you open that up, there's a PDF pack. It has the agenda. It has all the meeting materials we're discussing today. It has an accessibility option for those who would like a closed captioning option, who find the audio difficult to listen to. All of that is on the board's website, which again is nyc.gov/nycwaterboard. That is the preamble. I'm going to hand it to the board secretary, Al Rodriguez, from the New York City Law Department, who will call the roll and start the meeting.
Okay, calling the roll. Chairman Carney. Chairman Carney, you might be on mute. Okay, we'll come back. We'll come back to Alfonso.
Off mute.
Okay, you're present?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks,
Okay.
Al. I'm present.
Member Fernandez Ketchum?
I'm here.
Thank you. Member Freed?
Present.
Member Golden?
I'm here, thank you.
Member Sue? You might be on, GK, you might be on.
Okay, we know you're on. It's just a question of whether you're muted. I think star 6 gets you off.
Okay. We'll come back to Member Sue. Member Shaw?
Hello, present.
Present.
Was that you, GK?
It was. It
Okay.
was.
Yes.
Member,
Sorry. Yes. Star 6.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Present.
Member Zerilli?
I'm here, thanks.
All right. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Outstanding. Let me say a few things to start. First, this is the annual meeting of the Water Board. Happy that all the members were able to be present. Hope everybody can stay. We'll try to get through the agenda as quickly as we can. A couple of notices. In the South, we call this sort of good and welfare. I don't know what it's called in the North, but since our last meeting, Member Fernandez Ketchum completed her dissertation and was awarded her PhD. Evelyn, would you tell us the subject matter? Tell us the title of your PhD. Now that you're Dr. Fernandez Ketchum, what is the subject matter?
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you for sharing with everyone. So my PhD is in social welfare from Yeshiva Wertzweiler School of Social Work, and my dissertation was a comparison study between immigrant and second-generation Dominicans, ages 18 to 29-year-olds. What do they think makes them feel like an adult?
Wow.
So
Wow.
Wow.
Yes,
I don't think I'm not competent to read it. I don't
No,
think I'll
yes,
understand any of that.
Yes, life stages, and it was conducted here at Ostos Community College. The study had never been done with cross-cultural and in a community college for commuters. So it's very
Well,
exciting.
Dr. Fernandez-Ketchum, thank you very much. For the benefit of those on the phone, after Evelyn completed her dissertation and was awarded her PhD, she has become a vice president at Ostos Community College, which we're very proud of. And then, as if the Ketchums, it's just sort of an ongoing thing. Their daughter, Jamila Ketchum, has earned her JD at Fordham Law School and will sit for the bar in July. Evelyn, congratulations to you and to your family. Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Am I on?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We have with us today the new commissioner of DEP, Rit Agarwal. Rit, thank you for joining us today. Congratulations on your appointment. Looking forward to getting to know you as much as possible over the course of the next few weeks. You're welcome to say something if you'd like, or if not, I have a few other things I want to say. Rit, are you there? Well, we also want to welcome the COO of DEP, Vincent Sapienza. Vinny, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you in the crowd of senior leaders at DEP. We have.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. We were on mute, and our commissioner would like to say a couple words.
Well, please do.
Yes.
Please do.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we're all struggling with the technology here. I just wanted to say thank you as always, and it's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the work of the board.
Looking forward to getting to know you better, and over the short haul, not the long haul. We also have with us today the Chief Financial Officer of DEP and the Executive Director of the Water Board, Joseph Murin. Joseph, if you want to say something, please do. If not, then I've got a couple others.
I'll just say good morning and let you carry on, Mr. Chair, please.
Thank you very much, Joseph. We also have the man who is the direct liaison between DEP and this board, Omar Nazem. Omar does not get enough praise, in my view, for what he does for us. Annual meetings are a time to do that sort of thing. Omar, thank you so much for the sacrifices you make, one of which you made yesterday, an incredible sacrifice to provide a volume of information that I didn't think anybody could pull together as quickly as you did. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, that's nice of you to say, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. And I'm sorry, Albert Rodriguez, who is not simply the board secretary, but is also the board's legal counsel. Al, it's a pleasure to have you always. I may have some questions for you before this meeting's over. You don't have to have all the answers, but that's okay. Just write down the questions.
Okay. Well, I'll do my best, Mr. Chair.
All right. Fair enough. We have minutes from the meeting of April 29. The board members have had an opportunity to review those minutes. Are there any questions about them, comments about them, or proposed revisions in them? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is that you, Adam? Thank you.
This is Dan.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
This is Adam. I'll second.
All right, Adam. Thank you very much. Mr. Rodriguez, would you call the roll? Get the votes.
Yes. Calling the roll to approve the minutes of April 29th. Member Fernandez-Ketchum, how do you vote? Okay, we'll come back to Dr. Fernandez-Ketchum.
Evelyn, you may be on mute. If you need to unmute yourself,
Yeah.
hit star 6.
Member Freed, how do you vote?
Approve.
Okay, and that was you, Dr. Fernandez-Ketchum, that was you?
Yes, approved.
Okay, thank you. Member Golden,
Approve.
Member Sue,
Approved.
Member Shaw,
Approve.
Somebody's dog approved.
And Chairman Carney, how do you vote?
To approve.
And let's see, did I miss anybody here?
No, you got everybody out.
Okay,
No,
very good.
And this is members are really also approving.
Members are really, yes.
And as I have
Okay.
to point out, as a Staten Islander on the board, the reference to the neighborhood of Westerly is spelled wrong. But that's just my Staten Island instinct coming out. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
So the resolution to approve the minutes has been adopted, Mr. Chairman.
Unanimously.
Unanimous.
Our agenda item number 2 is the adoption of the fiscal year 2023 annual budget. That document is available on the Water Board's website, and Omar has given that address. It's nyc.gov/nycwaterboard. Joseph, would you are there any comments you choose to make about this, about the document?
The only thing I would add to what we've already discussed when we had the hearings and, the subsequent exchange that we gave in the backup to the board and it's on the website is, this is, I think, as we pointed out, a balanced budget in terms of what we're looking at in here, the proposed rate increase that, balances both the risk that we're facing on such issues as the inflation and interest rate, as well as, unforeseen projections that we have, not yet been able to quantify. So in that sense, we representing the administration and the staff do believe this is the appropriate level of both budget as well as, a rate increase for the board to consider. So I'll leave it at that and let it open to yourself, Mr. Chair, and the members if they have questions or anything to follow up on.
Are there questions from the members? Don't all speak at once.
Al, this is Dan. Just as a maybe as a point of order for the meeting, there's a couple things I'd like to see if there's a moment to discuss the proposal and make a few points into the record. When's the right time to do that?
Now, as regards the budget, sure.
Well, then, maybe since I have the floor, I'll take it for a few minutes. So just maybe I hope you'll bear with me just for a few minutes because there's a couple points I would like to make and offer my perspective as a new member of the board. First, again,
Dan,
thank you. And so I'd like to start just by commending the commissioner and the staff for their continued professional approach to managing our water and sewer system in this challenging time. I just saw this morning as I was coming into work the billboards promoting the system's high quality drinking water and sewer services, and certainly for that we're all thankful. Also want to thank the entire team for the continued financial stability of the system, which allows us to invest in the clean water and stormwater infrastructure that we need, particularly that's going to be continued to be stressed by the impacts of climate change and extreme weather. And in fact, I find it just totally remarkable that the system maintains an essentially $1 billion reserve fund that should give every financial analyst comfort in the system's stability. That being said, I think we're also living through a moment of financial difficulty for many New Yorkers, and the budget, the rate increase sits on top of a lot of just ongoing economic insecurity in our city. Things like rent increases, inflation, and other rising costs. Really, in a city where 40% of New Yorkers are living at or near the poverty line, according to the city's own statistics. And so this is, I'm coming into this as the rate increases really our primary responsibility as a board. And knowing that, I'm concerned that we as a board must continue to do more to protect New Yorkers as we're now considering the highest rate increase in almost a decade. It may very well be that a higher rate increase helps us to avoid future rates in coming years. It's hard to know that. This rate proposal is simply an evaluation of next year's budget proposal with a little extra for the comfort against reduced demand from conservation measures. And we know that the capital budget is going to be growing to accommodate some really necessary investments in stormwater resiliency. And so I really believe this board and New Yorkers need more than a one-year rate outlook and a real affordability plan, especially considering the strength of our financial resources and reserves, because while we of course need to maintain our excellent rating, our primary constituency is not the bondholders, but the quality of the system and the New Yorkers it serves. And our high quality service and current financial stability and reserves after almost a decade of slower rate growth proves that we really can balance all of these needs very well as an institution. And so much has been said about the affordability of our water compared to other cities, and that's a good thing. But our users, some of whom we heard from during public testimony, are also facing a litany of other unaffordable cost increases that could be partially mitigated here, whether through slower rate growth now and over the next several years, or with well advertised and effectively designed affordability programs. And I for one, would certainly support an evaluation of those programs and making sure they are adequate and reaching those who need them. So it would be advisable to have that information for next year's rate setting process for sure. So just to wrap up,
certainly in advance of next year's rate setting season.
Absolutely, Al. And so just to wrap up, since this is my first time going through this process as a board member, I've learned a ton from my fellow members, and I want to thank all of you for that. I've also certainly seen some things that we can all come together to do to improve upon to fulfill our primary duty as a board. And while I ultimately will support the budget and rate proposal, I do call on my fellow board members to consider a different process starting now to ensure our continued independence as a board. And I'd like to see us to meet again in person more often to deliberate these key issues that affect the system and its rates, and make sure that we do more to actively solicit real and robust feedback from our stakeholders as we deliberate. So we do have to make sure that this rate proposal is not the start of an upward trend, and that we're effectively investing in the system to continue to provide clean and affordable water and sewer system services to New Yorkers. So just wanted to get a couple of those points out there. I thank you for your time and consideration. I'll give you the floor back out.
Thank you very much, Dan. The slope on that curve it may well turn out to be positive, but minimally so. I don't know that that's correct. I don't know what next year's budget's going to look like. I don't know what the infrastructure needs are going to be going into next year. And I, like you, am worried about the increasing costs. Although we did have 3 years in the last 5 when there were no increases at all. And I think maybe the last 6, I'm not certain. But my goal is if the people who determine the rate and who make the recommendations, we determine the rate, believe that a slowly positive curve, a slow positive curve, is better than the spikes and troughs that we have seen in the last few years. And I'm going to hear that. I'm going to listen to that. And I think the board members will as well. I think, Dan, your suggestion that we do a better job of advertising affordability programs is excellent. And I would ask DEP to take a good hard look at that and figure out. You mentioned you mentioned billboards that you saw coming into work today. I haven't seen those. But I believe that there are any number of things we can do to advertise the existence of affordability programs, and in the process consider seriously how to make those affordability problems better. I don't know where this is all going. I've already told you, Dan, that I intend to, when the vote comes, I intend to actually take the recommendation. But there are things we ought to be able to do to be better at what we're here to do. And I think we can figure that out. But thank you very much for your comments. Are there other comments?
Thank you, Al.
Yeah, Chair, this is Adam Freed.
Sure.
I just would love to put a fine point on your comment around advertising of the affordability plans and really thinking through what makes sense. I think many of the plans that we've developed over time were initial good first step, but thinking much more holistically. And I really appreciate the comments we've received from UHAB and others around nonprofit landlords in particular and the challenges they face. So making sure that any affordability programs can actually help tenants and help support those who need it most. So not just thinking about the advertising and expanding the programs to get more people in, but making sure they're as impactful and targeted as possible to provide the most relief to those who need it.
Adam, thank you. Are there other comments?
This is Arlene. I just want to, can you hear me? It's Arlene. I just want to say one thing. Yes. Just want to clarify something that Dan said. I don't, as a board member, I don't think my obligation is to the existing bondholders. my obligation to the board is to make sure that rates are set, which makes sure that the board can access the bond market, which is the other form of funding that DEP utilizes to be able to keep the system running. So if we don't have access to those bond markets, the rate increases and the burden on the ratepayers will be that much more expensive. So just want to make a point of clarification that it's not about making decisions based on bondholders. It's about making sure that the system can have adequate funding to be able to service the system itself. And we need to be mindful that the bond market is the way in which the system finds the capital that it needs to make sure that those capital improvements happen, that the ratepayers are not overly burdened. So, I'd like to say that DEP has done a wonderful job of being fiscally conservative, maintaining AAA ratings, which cities like Chicago don't do, and other cities around the country have had struggles getting into the bond markets because they have not been fiscally responsible. So I just want to echo the hard work that the Water Finance Authority and the leadership at DEP has done to make sure that the DEP system has access to all of the capital that it needs to operate.
And the capital markets that it needs to operate. You're absolutely right, Arlene. I echo your comments. You made them far better than I ever could. Dan, I recognize the importance of the affordability programs trying to keep the rate low, but there is money in the system that the financial markets look at in order to help the markets, them, decide whether or how marketable our bonds are. We got AAA ratings, and we are. I think David Womack is on the phone. David, if you want to insert here, please do. If not, no pressure.
Mr. Chair, this is David Womack from the Municipal Water Finance Authority, and I appreciate the comments about the access to capital by the Water Finance Authority. That's a vital part of our system, and keeping it in good working order and making the important improvements that need to be made. We do enjoy very high credit ratings, which has stood us in good stead for several years, and that will also keep us in good stead in an environment of rising income. We have to be able to have the lowest possible costs, and we will continue to do so. We understand balance the needs of the system with the ratepayers, but it is a balance. I think what is being proposed together with the rate consultant, it's an equitable proposal. I mean, nobody likes to have costs go up, but this is a vital system. We pointed out that virtually every dollar that we raise in revenue stays in the system, doesn't go out. This is a real self-contained unit. So
That's a very important point, David. Thank you. I had not. I knew it. I just hadn't heard it said out loud. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, this is Mr. Chair. This is
other comments?
Yes, if I might just for a moment, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that this is a difficult time for a lot of our ratepayers, and we are cognizant of that. We heard about that from various constituents during the testimony, and I think all of us are sympathetic to that and understand and know that this is a tough time, and it's particularly difficult to have an increase during this kind of a time after a period in which people had the benefit of a 0% increase environment for some period of time. But it is, we have to make sure that the system is adequately funded, and I do want to commend DEP for doing tremendous work in figuring out how to strike the balance in terms of the needs of the system, but also protecting our ratepayers who are particularly vulnerable. I think members really raised a very good point, although I will say that I don't think our issue on affordability programs is advertising, because we did hear during the testimony that at least some of our programs are so oversubscribed that the real issue is capacity, at least at the moment. And that's obviously something we ought to think about going forward. And the last point I'd like to make is that I see at this point no tension between our efforts to promote affordability and minimize rate increases on the one hand, and on the other hand, to make sure that we have access to the capital markets on the most favorable terms, because as has been alluded to by earlier comments, being able to access the capital markets on those favorable terms enables us to have a lower cost of borrowing and therefore to impose less of a burden on ratepayers than we otherwise might have to. So to me, there's harmony between the idea of making sure that the debt is properly funded, that we have adequate funds to service the debt on the one hand, and on the other hand, trying to keep the water as affordable and wastewater's treatment as affordable as possible. But with that, I'll just conclude and just give a shout out, as I said, to all the DEP folks, but especially want to give a special shout out to Omar Nazem, who has been incredibly responsive with questions and concerns, including over the weekend, and so I really appreciate that. Thank you.
John, thank you very much. Are there other comments?
This is Member Freed. Just to circle back as we're thinking about things that we're requesting in advance of next year and incorporating into a broader considerations. I'll do my annual bit just to stress the importance of looking at the sustainable stormwater charge, and particularly want to call out and thank DEP for the study that is ongoing, being led by Deputy Commissioner Licata, which has had a number of public meetings that have been excellent with some very helpful background research to help guide that program, and just continue to urge DEP and Water Board staff to look for opportunities to accelerate that work, to be able to come back to the board and present to us options for thinking about a separate stormwater charge so that we can ensure that we can incentivize ways of accelerating green infrastructure and bringing it not just the public right away, but private property as well, and offsetting some of the costs that come with that, to ensure we get the tremendous benefits. So just want to make sure that's on the record of looking for ways to accelerate that, encouraging them to continue to engage the board and the public in those conversations, and excited and appreciative of the work that's already gone into that.
Adam, thank you. I couldn't imagine that we were going to get through a meeting without having you reference the separate.
I'm nothing if not predictable.
Thank you very much, Adam, very much. Are there other comments? Hearing none, somebody remind me of where we are. We are looking at the adoption of the rate schedule, or are we looking at the approval of the budget? I just don't remember. We've sort of combined the two.
It's number two, the budget.
Yes.
Item.
All right. Then may I have a motion, please, to approve the budget as presented?
Arlene Shaw, so moved.
This is John.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Mr. Secretary, would you take a roll call? Vote,
Yes, sir.
Please.
It's a roll call for a vote to adopt the fiscal 2023 annual budget. Member Fernandez Ketchum, how do you vote?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Approved.
Thank you. Member Freed, how do you vote?
Approve.
Member Golden, how do you vote?
Approve.
Member Sue, how do you vote?
Approved.
Thank you. Member Shaw, how do you vote?
Approve.
Member Zarrilli, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Chairman, the resolution has been adopted unanimously.
And I vote to approve.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The budget is adopted. Thank you all very much. We're now at agenda item 3, the adoption of the rate schedule effective July 1st, 2022. Happy to hear comments on the proposed rate schedule before we take the vote. I think we have covered a lot of what might be said about that, what I expected to be said about it, but if there are other comments about the rate schedule, this is the time. Hearing none, would somebody, Omar, would you read the proposed, into the record, the rate schedule as proposed for effective July 1, 2022?
So the rate schedule, I won't go through the entire text because it's lengthy, but the summary is all rates and charges chargeable in the City of New York will be increased by 4.9%, effective July 1st, 2022, with two exceptions, which are or not quite two exceptions, two things to call out separately, which are the two wholesale water rates chargeable to the communities, the 60 to 70 communities north of the city. The baseline rate, it has a lot of things, the regulated rate, the allowance rate, the entitlement rate will increase by 1.4%, and the second rate, the sort of second tier rate chargeable on amounts used in excess of the regulated rate will increase by 4.9%, in both cases effective July 1st.
May I have a motion, please, to adopt the rate as Omar has provided?
Yes, and Mr. Chairman, this is the secretary, that this vote is for the adoption of the in-city rate.
The in-city rate, that's right.
Arlene Shaw, so moved.
That was you, Arlene?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there a second?
It was Adam Freed, second.
Adam, thank you very much. Mr. Rodriguez, would you take the roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Member Dr. Fernandez Ketchum, how do you vote?
Yes, approved.
Member Freed, how do you vote?
Approve.
Member Golden, how do you vote?
Approve.
Member Sue, how do you vote?
Approve.
Thank you. Member Shaw, how do you vote?
Approved.
Member Zarili, how do you vote?
Approved.
And Chairman Carney, how do you vote?
To approve. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The in-city rate schedule has been approved.
And it has been approved unanimously. Thank you very much for that, to the members. Agenda item 4, the adoption of the wholesale rates effective July 1st, 2022. You've just given us some of that, Omar. Is there a need to do it again?
No. The rate schedule is designed as a one-stop shop, which has all the rates and charges we charge. We have separate resolutions for the in-city and the wholesale rates because they're different constructs and they're different customer bases. Both recorded as with all the rates and charges we have in the rate schedule, just for customer convenience. There's one document to look at. But what I said earlier about the wholesale rates is true. It's a separate resolution. We'll adopt them, but for anyone in the industry or customers who wants to look up prices, everything is captured in that single rate schedule document.
May I have a motion, please, then, to approve the wholesale rate effective July 1, 2022? May I have a motion?
Evelyn Fernandez Ketchum, motion to move, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Evelyn. Is there a second?
Adam, second.
Adam, thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, would you read the roll, take the roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Member Dr. Fernandez Ketchum, how do you vote?
Approve.
Member Freed, how do you
Approve.
vote? Member Golden, how do you vote?
Approve.
Member Sue, how do you vote?
Approved.
Member Shaw, how do you vote?
Approved.
Member Zarili, how do you vote?
Approved.
Chairman Carney, how do you vote?
To approve, sir.
Okay. The resolution to adopt the wholesale rates effective July 1, 2022 has been approved.
And unanimously so.
Yes, sir.
That was our last agenda item. I want to thank the members for thinking out loud with me and with each other about this meeting. Dan, you actually got us going. You don't get any extra money for that, though. It's always good to have the new kid on the block actually has picked up the ball, decided to run with it. Dan, thank you very much for your.
Thank you for your leadership, Al.
About this, it's terrific. Are there other comments before I ask for a motion to adjourn? We are
Mr. Chairman,
40 minutes into the meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Chairman?
Yes?
Chairman, can the public comment or no?
No.
There is no public comment at this meeting. If you have if you have comments, please submit them. It would be great to do that. But the general rule is that the public does not comment at this meeting. Am I correct about this, Al?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chair, just the commissioner would like to jump in and say a couple of concluding words. If now is an okay time for that.
Well, yes, of course. And let me say to the public, the person who was representing the public, this has been a good meeting for us, and I don't like the idea of saying you can't comment, but once we open that door, there's no way to close it, and it would be good to know what you're thinking. Would you please send us your comments? Commissioner, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to thank you and all of the members of the Water Board for your work. As I said earlier, the important role that you all play for this, which is in very, very much a vote of confidence in DEP, the Water Board staff, the Water Finance Authority, and I think we all appreciate the compliments that you paid to the 6,000 people who comprise New York City's water system. Work that we do. I would also like to observe that, some of the concerns that are raised about the future are ones that we share. It is, to my mind, unfortunate that we did not actually build up more of a reserve over the last several years when New Yorkers were not stressed by inflation, because unfortunately it means that we face the same inflationary risk that all do. And so I wish I could offer some comfort to members who express the fear that maybe there are future rate hikes. I think there may well be, and we have to prepare ourselves for that reality, because, of course, our obligation is to preserve and maintain the system to serve New Yorkers and protect the environment. I think along those lines, though, as we've heard, there is clearly an opportunity for us to think more creatively about the current programs that the Water Board offers to assist those who struggle to meet their water bills. There are also issues that we have been working on to increase collections from people who, frankly, could probably pay their water bills without any trouble, but choose not to. And so among the things that we may need from the Water Board going forward is help along both of those lines. And finally, I've heard from several of the members just now, the ongoing correct dedication to ensuring the long-term future of the water supply system. And that is, of course, something that, especially in a period of inflation, especially in a period where if there are going to be rate increases in the future, we are going to have to justify them well. I think we at DEP need to and will be taking a very sharp look at our strategic plan, both to understand exactly what we need for the future, whether we are doing it, whether there is stuff that we are currently not doing that we should be doing to prepare for the future, because, of course, it's not just water supply, it is also stormwater management. As Member Freed points out, the sustainable rate case is part of that. And in fact, the sustainable rate study is part of that. And yes, indeed, we will be looking at whether there is an opportunity to accelerate that work. All of that, though, leads me to think that we may come to you all on the Water Board for some assistance with how we do that kind of thinking, how we do it in an accelerated fashion, and how we do it with the level of analytical rigor that the people of New York deserve. And if you, Mr. Chairman, are okay with that, we will be in touch with you about what we might need and what form of assistance we might ask the Water Board for.
Commissioner, thank you very much for your comments. This is sort of it's not intended to be a back at you, but I agree that we need better guidance with respect to strategic planning. And I absolutely agree that we need to figure out We've got a great rate consultant. We've got a great, but we don't have the plan that gets us out 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. And I would certainly be fully in favor of figuring out how to afford to create that plan. That's one thing. The other is, and you'll hear me on this before too much longer, I think that the DEP folks who provide information to this board are doing a fantastic job. I would like to be able, I think, I'm not sure, but I want to talk to individual board members about this. I'd like to be able to shore that up. I'd like to be able to make sure that the board has, call it independent advice, but it can't be independent because it must rely on DEP's information. But advice that helps us to think more carefully about whether we're headed in the right direction. And that's something that I'd like to talk to you about, and something that I would first like to talk to the board members individually about, and then come to you and sit and talk. I loved dinner the other night. Let's do it again.
That's great. Thank you. I'd welcome that, Mr. Chairman.
All right. May I have a motion, please, to adjourn the meeting?
This is John. I'll make that motion.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Adam. Mr. Secretary, if you would call the roll.
Yes, I will. Dr. Fernandez Ketchum, how do you vote to adjourn the meeting?
Yes, approved.
Thank you. Member Freed, how do you vote?
Approve.
Member Golden, how do you vote?
I vote to adjourn.
Member Sue, how do you vote?
Vote to adjourn.
Member Shaw, how do you vote?
To adjourn.
Member Zarrilli, how do you vote?
Approved.
And Chairman Carney, how do you vote?
To adjourn. Many thanks to all the members for taking this time this morning to help us. I love it. It's an expression I've always used, to think out loud about some of the things that we're going to have to consider at least as seriously in the not too distant future. I'd like to try to have more meetings to do that. I think somebody has already raised the question. It may have been Dan. I'd like to try to have more meetings where we don't necessarily have big ticket votes to make or to offer, but where we can actually talk about, open to the public, to talk about the things that we're thinking about. The end. Thank you all very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You all take care. Be good. Bye-bye.